for moral support.
Yes, we did it.
Caitlin
oh my
did
gosh.
it. We did not accidentally go live in a vertical format this time. So we are ahead of the game.
Yes. Welcome back to week 2.
Week 2
of
the Love Note knit along. Oh gosh. Yes. Welcome back. I can't believe it's been 1 week. I hope that you've been knitting like a kitten.
Mm-hmm. Keep knitting, kitten. Is that what Stephen West says?
That's what Stephen West. That's where that's coming from. So yes, welcome back to week 2. If you recall, this is the sweater that we are making. It's the Love Note by Tin Can Knits.
Mm-hmm.
Last week we talked about yarn. We talked about choosing a size.
Yeah.
We talked about
provisional cast on.
Provisional cast on. That is on. There's a video on the YouTube channel that goes into detail on how to do a provisional cast on.
Mm-hmm.
I think we also talked about increases.
Yep, we talked about increases. We also we had a couple of videos up on this channel also for the provisional cast on and the increases. So if you need a refresher on that, you can catch those videos.
Yep. And Tip Tuesday, I think this was yesterday.
Yeah, Tip Tuesday. So every 2 weeks we put out like a little tip, just like sewing or knitting or embroidery or something like that. And this week it was gauge swatching.
Aha.
Yes.
So if all that talk about gauge was a bit confusing previously, then hop on the channel. It went up yesterday because yesterday was Tuesday. And you can figure out how to measure your gauge swatch and some of the best practices when you're doing gauge swatch. In this case, for this sweater and for the ranunculus, I am not a gauge swatcher, but I diligently gauge swatch for everything else. So,
yeah.
Yes.
I posted it as fabrications because that's how that works. And Julie tagged me in the post and said, "There's some great tips here on swatching," like as a joke because she knows that I don't gauge swatch. I'm the worst.
I have a couple of friends that I should also tag as a joke. Okay, so it looks like we've got a few people who have joined. So let's talk turkey.
Yeah. So this week we're going to talk a bit about lace.
Ooh, lace. So as you can see, the yoke of this sweater has a lace panel, and I think we did this last week where we put like maybe a piece of paper or something.
Oh yeah,
or a shirt behind so you can kind of see the lace knit a little more clearly. Let's see. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of looks a bit like a pine cone, or if you're feeling spooky, it could be a rib cage. But I think it's probably meant to be more of like I guess it also kind of looks like a heart. Maybe that's where it comes from. So
it's very leafy.
It is. It also makes me think of like a pine cone or something like that.
And if you've never knit lace before, it's a kind of a nice one to start with because it's very intuitive. There's a lot of really basic stitches that you're doing. There's not nothing too complex. It's yarn overs and it's slip knits or knit two togethers.
Yep. There is one double decrease. So those are single decreases where you take 2 stitches and turn them into 1 stitch. There is one double decrease where you take 3 stitches and turn it into 1 stitch. And that happens once per chart.
Yep.
So you don't have to do a ton of that.
And part of the reason I like this lace, what I was saying about it being kind of intuitive, is that there's kind of a center. Yeah, if you show so each of these lace sections, there's a very clear center spine. Okay. So it gets a little easier as you go to kind of predict what's going to happen.
Yes.
You know that if your center spine kind of stays the same, you're on the right track.
Exactly. They tend to like mirror in an intuitive fashion.
Yeah.
So your decreases will converge or they'll separate from that center spine or what have you. So that can be really helpful as you're getting to. You might find as you progress that you need to check the pattern less frequently if you come up with like a rule in your mind.
Yeah.
Like maybe the middle stitches were like maybe there were 6 middle stitches and now there's 4 middle stitches or whatever it might be.
So Andrea says she's new to knitting lace and wondering about inserting a lifeline. And I think that's a really good idea, especially if you're new to lace knitting or anytime you're doing a new technique, it's a good idea.
Yes.
And then if you get really frustrated and need to rip back, that's easy to do. The other tip that I have for knitting lace is putting stitch markers in your chart, in your knitting.
Oh yes.
At the beginning and the end of your chart. So
I'm so glad I brought my knitting again because I have that exactly. That's what I do too.
yeah. So this lace panel I believe is 12 stitches, right?
Oh, something like that.
It's something like 12. So I would put a stitch marker at each of those points for the repeats, so that when you finish the repeat, if you have a stitch left over, you know that you might have made a mistake in that last repeat. So you're not go on pretty quickly if you do that.
It's an excellent tip. It also makes sure that you don't get lost in the middle because like if you're just reading off of a chart or just reading off of instructions, then you might get mixed around as to what part of the repeat you're in and just like restart it in the middle of the repeat. So that, stitch markers, great. You should just be aware that sometimes yarn overs can travel over stitch markers.
That's right.
So if your numbers are off, first things first, if there's yarn overs before or after the stitch marker, go back, double check that they're lying on the right side, then recount. And if there's still a problem, then yes, you need to go back and rejig what you've done.
Yeah. So Melanie says she's using markers between the 19 repeats. At round 5, it looks like the pattern is shifting 1 stitch to the left.
Yes.
So I need to shift every
stitch? Yes, I believe so. Yes. Yeah, you will be shifting your beginning of round marker on round 5. Just on round 5. And that's just because of where the decreases line up.
Okay. I don't remember that part.
Thank you, Melanie, so much for bringing that up.
Very good
Because it's been 2 weeks since I knit this part of the lace, and I just picked it up again today and would not have gotten back to that in time for this.
That's a good catch.
So,
yeah, because your lace is sort of like when the next, they kind of like overlap, right?
Yeah, if you're basically putting the decrease will happen like around the stitch marker. So you want to take the stitch marker out and replace it after the decrease. And you will want to do that, with the other markers as well. Yes. Yeah, so all of those markers will shift. That is a really good question. Thank you for catching that.
Was there anything else you wanted to add to that?
For the lace?
Yeah.
So we do have a video up.
Yes, we do.
With how to read lace charts.
Yep.
With like a generic chart that I hand drew, don't judge me. And then
for demonstration.
And then one of the things that I like about this pattern, what I like about any lace pattern that has this kind of thing is that you've got both a chart and you also have the written out instructions.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, I find it easier as time progresses and as you become more proficient to just be able to glance at the chart and get an idea of what you're looking at. But it's really helpful, especially if you've just starting lace knitting for the first time, to be able to have that frame of reference. You've got the chart and you've got the instructions, so when one doesn't make sense, you can refer to the other and hopefully help you create a more comprehensive picture of what's supposed to happen. But like Caitlin said, it hopefully is pretty intuitive. It's kind of like, it makes me think of those punch cards that like computers had, which I don't think is supposed to. It's going to be very reassuring because I don't know how those computers work, but that's,
also like when was the last time you used one of those?
I don't think I've ever used one of those.
We're talking about the chart. So when you look at the chart, it's a grid.
Yeah.
So you've got
Have the picture.
the image of the chart, and what you do in each stitch is written inside the little
So
box.
it's almost like what you see on the page is what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, so it really kind of comes together. You can kind of see in the chart what it almost is going to look like. Yeah, I do remember punch cards. Yes, I remember when I had my first job at the grocery store, I did have a punch card that I put in, but that was like 1998. or 97. I think that was probably at the very, very tail end of that.
I was not allowed to work
Yeah.
then. So. They would have gone to jail.
But thank you, Melanie. Thank you. Yeah, so that is really good with lace. One thing that I wanted to talk about with like hacking the pattern
Oh dang!
was the one that I'm making. I've decided to try to hack this pattern and do a different lace chart.
Oh,
Yeah. So I did
more.
a little bit of research. I looked at a lot of free lace charts on the internet, just kind of browsed through, and I was looking for a lace chart that has a similar openness to this.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so something that's similarly open and has a close number of repeats, or like a number divisible by the same amount.
So
right?
like if the chart is divisible, oh Lord. If the chart, oh my God, if the chart is 12 stitches, then every size in this pattern is going to be divisible by 12 stitches.
Exactly.
So long as you've got like between 6 or 12 or 24 or.
Exactly. So I didn't find, I found lots. There are lots out there. So I can put some links for some websites that have really good ones. There's lots of stitch libraries out there. There's one called like Stitch a Day, New Stitch a Day, and it's like lots of different charts in there. But what I ended up choosing was the lace chart from the Shaylin.
Oh, the Shaylin shawl.
Yeah, so that's a shawl that I knit, and it's kind of like a little play on the old shale.
Yeah.
Kind of chart. And I think it has like, it either has 12 or it has 6. I can't remember.
But it fits in.
It fits in, or hold on a second here.
You made it work.
I made it work. So, oh yeah, I think what it was is it has 11.
Oh, yeah,
It
just
has
throw in
11.
an extra stitch then, right?
So what I did was I looked at the pattern, I figured out what my size is and how many stitches that size is going to have before starting the lace. And I went up to the next multiple.
Oh, so you just like added a few extra in to fit in.
Yeah.
With repeat.
So let's say I had to have, what's a number?
250. That's a number. I don't know if it's close to what you were thinking.
Hold on, I'll remember this. Just give me 2 seconds. So, okay. So I needed a number that was divisible by 11.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right. So I just increased my stitch count by like 2 or 3 or whatever it was. So that my total number of stitches before starting the lace is divisible by 11.
Nice.
So, and I'll just have like, maybe this much more
It won't.
knitting.
No,
It's
on that.
negligible.
It's like an eighth of an inch of extra
Yeah.
fabric. Yeah.
So definitely something to consider playing around with if you're feeling comfortable doing that kind of thing, playing with your knitting. I've done it with other sweaters.
Yeah.
I did the Magnolia sweater. So I did the flat the Felix pullover.
Right.
Okay. I knit the Felix without the lace raglan. I just did regular raglan. And then I put like a textured
From the
chart
Magnolia.
on the bottom of the sweater because I really liked that chart, but I didn't want to knit a fingering weight sweater.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Laura and Melanie both say that there's some interest about doing the love note without lace. I think you could. As far as I can remember, there's no actual increases in the pattern.
There are no actual increases. However, there is negative space.
Huh?
So, I know, right? So I ran into this problem when I tried to knit an eyelet sweater without the eyelets.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't fit.
It's
Because the eyelets create negative space.
Oh, like they add in extra space into
They
the
add
piece?
space.
So it would be too tight across
Yes.
the yoke without it. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
So if you knit this without the increases, the yarn over increases, you're losing all these holes.
And they're slightly bigger than the knit stitches.
And the holes are creating space in the piece. Does that make sense? The way I'm
It does
explaining
make
it?
sense, yeah.
So yeah, I thought, oh, I'll just make sure I have the same number of stitches, but I will leave out the eyelets on the body of the sweater, because the whole like bottom part of the sweater, it was the campsite cardi.
That's exactly what I thought you were going to
Yeah, and I didn't want to do that because it called for like 4 needle sizes, and I'm like, that's silly. I'm not doing that. So I left out the eyelets, and the sweater, instead of coming forward here, it
Shrunk backwards?
shrunk backwards. So the back piece of it is
Was
smaller.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So that's why I was looking for a lace pattern
Okay.
with a similar openness.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I had also wondered about throwing in like a cable substitution, but that would definitely tighten up.
Yeah.
So
because
that
a cable's like almost like a ribbing, and a ribbon,
Yeah.
and it would like tighten in, right?
Suck in a bit. So
Yeah.
in those cases, for both, like, because I'm sure you absolutely could do something without the lace, or you could try throwing in a cable pattern. But what I would do is, I don't think it's called cheating per se, but what I would do would be to like go onto Ravelry or Instagram,
Yes.
look for examples of those people who have already figured out the math, figured out the adjustments. What did they do? Maybe they threw in some extra stitches to make up for it. Check what they did and try that, and throw in a lifeline before you start fussing with it.
Yeah.
So that if you need to rip back, it's a lot easier for you to like restart.
Yeah, that would be definitely something to really think
Punch
about.
the cat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you would definitely have to figure that out. Because each of these yarn overs is a lot bigger than one stitch.
It is.
Like if you look at the yarn over itself,
Stacks on stacks on stacks.
the yarn over itself is gigantic
It is.
compared to
Part of that might just be my knitting.
compared to the individual stitches. It's like quite large.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
Okay, we found a way to version there. But it is, I'm very much looking forward
Yeah.
to seeing
Yeah.
what yours looks like.
yeah, I think it's gonna be fun.
Without putting too much pressure on you to bring it for next week.
And this chart is not as tall, I don't think, or as I can't remember
Okay, so
if
you're
it's
gonna
as
go-
tall. So I'm either going to do 2 repeats of it, or I'm going to knit a bit and start the lace a little bit later
Okay, yeah,
to work.
that makes sense.
You're not comfortable making those changes yet. That's totally cool. But
Totally
it's
fair.
kind of cool to know you can.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the Tin Can Knits designer duo have done several events in the past where they've done like a hack our patterns. I know they hacked the flax at some point.
Yeah.
And people were just finding different ways to hack their patterns. So it's a great choice for designer
Yeah.
if you're gonna try and play around with that, because there's lots of resources and
Yeah.
inspiration online.
And the nice thing about this pattern is that there are no increases
Yes. Yeah, it is quite.
in the lace.
Yeah.
Like it's not growing at that point. So
As opposed to the ranunculus, which has increases built into that lace yoke, and so
Exactly.
you kind of have to be even more cognizant of that when you're switching things around.
Yeah.
Okay, so what have we done? We talked about lace. We talked about charts.
Yeah.
Woo. We did mention lifelines. Again, lifeline, great idea, especially if you're just kind of new to lace, or if you are like me and you don't like ripping back. Great
it's also
choice.
kind of nice. Like I like putting them in because then I don't have to do as much thinking.
Yeah.
I can kind of zone out a little more.
And then and if you are really new to knitting lace and you're a bit nervous, like I tend to be nervous when I'm learning a new skill, you can put a lifeline in after the first chart so that you can like lock in the first chart and do the second one, so that if you make a mistake in the second one, you've still got it, like your progress is saved.
Yeah. So Laura says, what about doing repeat only once? I saw someone who did the sweater without the lace. Well, I guess you could do it only once. Like,
Yeah,
how many times does it say to do it?
2 for the adult sizes.
Okay.
I'd still
Yeah.
go with the 2, if I'm honest.
I would too.
Or like look for resources, like I said, that talk about any sort of additional changes made. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Excellent.
Awesome.
What else was I going to say about playing with the chart?
Like you're looking at my notes. My notes are done.
Yeah. So, yes, the Lifeline is amazing. Yeah, I'm glad you did that. It's a little peace of mind.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. We've got a question from Susie about provisional cast-on stitches.
So, do you use other methods for provisional cast on with scrap yarn? I feel I never pick up the right amount of stitches.
So Susie, I'm going to ask you a clarifying question. For the provisional cast on, do you mean like when you take it out, you're always like 1 stitch short? Otherwise, oh no, the message has been retracted. Dun, dun, dun. Exactly. Okay, we're one short. Okay, it's okay that you're 1 stitch short because when you're taking out your provisional cast on, that first one that you do is kind of like a half stitch, and so you just kind of have to go in and like catch the half stitch. It's totally normal. It happens to me too, and I inevitably forget when I'm taking the scrap yarn out, and then go like, wait, I'm 1 short, and then I just like wrap the yarn around it and go like, I made a stitch. And it'll be fine. It'll be fine when you like join it back in the round and keep knitting and then you just weave your end in. Totally normal. You'll run into the same issue regardless of like what material you use.
Yeah. And also, we didn't really talk about this last week, but I actually skipped the provisional cast on. And I
tea spilled right now.
And I meant to bring that up last week, but we had so much to talk about. So what I usually do is I cast on the number of stitches that they want you to end with, basically. So like
like before any increases?
Yeah, so like I look down, I look at the end of the pattern where it says, for your ribbing. Go to the end with the ribbing.
Oh.
For the neck, when you pick the neck back up.
Neckline. Where's the neck? There we go. Neckline.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. So I looked back at that. I found how many stitches they want me to have on the ribbing, right? So I'm not going to say the real number because this is a paid pattern.
250? No,
whatever.
That's way too many
Whatever
stitches.
the number is of that of those stitches. I cast that on with a long tail cast on.
It's nice and stretchy.
I knit my ribbing, and then I do my increases.
I'm so shocked. I'm sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I do my increases to basically catch up to where it wants me to start knitting the sweater.
I never know this. Okay, rule breaker. And it's worked? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, that's so good.
And
Oh my god, that's so good.
Yeah, I'm a cheater.
Laura says I knew it.
Oh, I'm so sneaky.
No, it's all good. It's
And
good.
I did that kind of thing with the ranunculus too.
Yeah, I remember.
I'm like,
done that. Yeah.
I
don't have time for this.
I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this faffing around.
If everyone else feels better about it, I do the provisional cast on every time.
That's great.
Because I'm a rule follower.
Yeah. So we should, you know what, we should do like...
I'm going to write myself a little note.
We should do an interview with Tin Can Knits and find out why they do it this way.
Because
we're all curious. Yeah.
I have it in capital. I wrote, what is the point? And then I'm going to draw an arrow to provisional cast on, so I don't just go, oh my god, why was I so sad?
I'm sure that there's a great reason, and honestly, yes. I think there's always value in learning a new skill.
Yeah, that's true.
There's that.
Yeah.
You know, but there's so many different ways to do things that in knitting where you can kind of figure out your own way to do it that you like better. You know, it's like knitting socks or all that kind of thing. You can really play around once you are comfortable with what's happening.
Yeah.
You can kind of experiment and try your own thing.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, sometimes it doesn't work. Like the sweater that I tried to change didn't work.
Which is totally fine. And
I learned something.
Yeah. You learned something. It's not a reflection of you as a knitter, so.
Exactly.
Except that you have an adventurous spirit.
Yeah. But my guess was that it has something to do with the bind off, that they prefer the look of the bind off, maybe.
That could be it.
Not sure.
We'll report back next week.
Yeah.
Because I have a giant note in my book now.
We'll go straight to the source.
Will we? You'll go straight to the source.
I'll ask. I'm very curious.
You got clout? No, I'm kidding.
I'm gonna send them a message and just ask them and report back if they
We're doing a knit along and people are wondering and we don't have an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a perfect fit of the neckline begin. Oh.
Yeah.
Provisional cast on. So then maybe that's what it is. So that you can shape your neckline and keep going until it is the right amount for you, whereas you can't really tell that if you're going from the top down.
Yeah.
As easily.
Yeah. So the
Thank you,
neckline is the most critical point for achieving the fit you want. True. I'm just thinking this through on the fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess if it didn't fit the way that you wanted, you could more easily pull it back.
Yes.
And redo it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I might need to look at the instructions for the different sizes. But it's a waste of time. Susie, it's never a waste of time. You're knitting. It's delightful. Just remember that. It's not a waste of time as you rip back a project because it's the wrong size.
Lessons learned all along the way.
Yeah. We'll come back with a more confirmed answer.
Yeah.
It might just be because they told us so, but we'll see.
Yeah. I'm definitely in the grand scheme of things, I'm a questioner.
I'm not.
I'm like, well, why would I do, like, I need a really good reason to do something.
I'm a sheep.
I'm
a sheeple.
You're a sheeple.
On that note,
yeah,
I feel like that is, I think that's what we were going to talk about this evening.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any last minute questions? Basically, next week we're going to come in and we're going to talk about the raglan and separation of sleeves.
Yep.
So roughly, that's where you could be at. You don't have to be. You do this at your own pace. You could be at the hemline already if you wanted to.
Oh,
Sometimes.
yeah.
Sometimes that happens. But as always, if you have questions, pop them in the comments or reach out via email. And we are happy to answer them. Tag us.
Yeah, I want to see what people are working on.
If you're on Instagram or Facebook, you can tag the store. Katie's going to kill me. It's somewhere in here is the hashtag that we use.
Yes, so fabricationer.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fabricationer.
Yes. So fabrication.
Or you can just tag us. Like,
yeah. At fabrication.
So yes, people are
grumbling about learning a new technique. I see your pain. I see your pain.
I think it's always worthwhile to try something new, for sure. And I have done provisional cast-ons for different things. Some things you have to.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah. Lessons learned. Excellent.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody so much for joining us again. We hope to see you next week for a grand adventure in raglans and sleeves.
Yes, and we'll have a couple new videos for you next week on, I believe it's separating the sleeves, so you can get a more close-up look of what is actually happening.
Yes. I think we're enjoying this like slightly less chaotic. Flip the camera down. Flip the camera back up. Flip the camera down. I think it's working.
Yeah. Okay.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Everybody says thank you. Awesome. Thank you for watching and joining the chat. It's always more fun when you guys chat with us.
100%. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Happy knitting.